Now that we're able to get the access token, we need to create a database in order to store the access token there for future use in our API requests. So in this video, we're going to set up a database. We're going to use MySQL, and then we're going to connect to the database using SQLize, which is a library in Node.js that allows us to easily manage our database. So our database will only have one table for the accounts, and we're going to store the account information there. All right, so let's get started. In order to set up our database, I'm going to use Docker to launch a MySQL instance. And you feel free to use any kind of local MySQL installation that you have. All right. I have this command right here, and this command is going to run a container and actually we're going to use MariaDB, which is a fork of MySQL. The reason for that is that at the time of recording this video, there's no MySQL container or MySQL Docker image that is compatible with Apple Silicon. So anything that's M1, M2, M3, and so on is not going to support the MySQL Docker image. So MariaDB is very similar. So we're going to use that. And the MySQL password is going to be root. And the container name is going to be MariaDB. All right. So now that we have the container, we can go and do Docker PS. And we can see that 6 seconds ago, we have this container running on the default port of MySQL. If you don't have Docker installed yet, you can go ahead and just Google Docker install, and you will find a documentation on how to install Docker for your operating system. So now that we have MySQL running, I'm going to create a new terminal, and I'm going to call it MySQL because this is where we are going to connect to our MySQL instance. All right, so we're going to do MySQL. User is going to be root, and password is going to be root, and the host is going to be localhost, like this. All right, now we're connected to MySQL. Let's do show databases. All right, so we only have the default databases. We're going to create database, and we're going to call it Discord notifications. Okay, now we're going to do use Discord notifications. And now we are inside of our database. All right, perfect. So we're going to stop here, and we're going to install the SQLize library in our backend here. So it's going to be npm install SQLize. And then once SQLize is installed, we're going to use a command that will initialize SQLize. And we're going to use npx to execute the SQLize CLI. And we're going to do init like this. All right, so this has created a models folder, a migrations folder, and a seeders folder. We don't really need the seeders folder. We're not going to use it for this project, so we can delete it. And you can see that we have a configuration here that is initialized for us. So this is the configuration that we're going to use. In our case, we have given the password root for the root in our local development. And now is the time to create some migrations. Now the migrations are just some files that are going to describe what our table structure is going to be like. So instead of going inside MySQL and creating the database directly there, we're going to use a JavaScript file, and this will keep our database consistent through all environments. Now, in order to create the migration, we are going to do npx SQLize CLI, and we're going to do migration generate, and we're going to call the migration create accounts. Okay. Now, this is the migration file that was just created. And in here, we are going to create our table. So let's see. We're going to use Copilot to create the table. So our table is going to have the following columns. So we're going to have an ID that is going to be auto increment. And we're going to have Lightfunnels ID, which is going to be the account ID from Lightfunnels. We're going to have Discord channels. This is going to be a JSON column, and we're going to store an array of Discord channels here. And by the way, Lightfunnels ID and ID are going to be indexed because we are going to be searching the table with mainly with Lightfunnels ID. This is the access token that we are getting upon installing the app. The status is going to be whether the app is installed on the account or not. So it's going to be either installed or uninstalled. Created ad and updated ad are the timestamps that are going to store date information on when the account was created on a database and when it was last updated. All right, so let's go ahead and do create migration up for accounts table. Perfect. Okay, so let's see what it did. We have the ID, it's going to be integer and it's going to never be null and auto increment and primary key, perfect. The Lightfunnels ID, this is the account ID from Lightfunnels and it's going to be a string, good. So it's going to never be null because as soon as we create the account on the table, it's going to already have the account ID on Lightfunnels. So we're good there. The Discord channel is going to be a JSON file. We're going to give it a default value and it's going to be an empty array. The Lightfunnels token can be null, so allow null true, because when the user uninstalls the app, we need to remove the access token because it's going to be invalidated. And the status is either installed or uninstalled, never gonna be null. And we're going to give it a default value of installed because as soon as we create the account, we create it at the installation. So at the point of creating the account, the app is going to be installed. So created ad and updated ad are dates, never going to be null. And this will be correctly set up by SQLize to automatically update. Now in here, we're going to do down. So this is going to be executed if we undo the migration. So it's going to need to drop the accounts table. All right, so there it is. Now our migration is done. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. So we're going to do npx SQLize CLI db migrate. And it says unknown database development. That's because I forgot to update the database name here in the configuration. So we called it Discord notifications. Okay, and let's try again. Perfect. So now if we go to MySQL and do show tables, we're going to see that we have accounts table. Now if we select or if we describe the accounts table, you can see that it has all the columns that we need and they're all correctly set up. All right, so now we need to create a model for the account. The model is a JavaScript file that represents an account and that gives us access to some functions that make adding, removing, and updating accounts on a database super easy. So let's go to the models here and we are going to create a new file and we call it account. And we're going to use Copilot, and to do that, let me just go to the migration and get my columns like this. And we're going to tell Copilot create account model, account SQLize model with the following fields. Perfect. So it has created our model. However, it has required a file that we do not have. So this is going to be a database instance file. So it's just going to be inside our backend folder and we're going to call it database.js. And in here, we're going to say create a SQLize instance and make sure it uses the current env config from config/config.json. So we want to make sure that it's using the configuration from here, and it should be using the configuration for the correct environment based on the environment variable, or if the environment variable is missing, it's just going to assume that we are in the development environment. So this is what it's going to do. It imports SQLize and it sets the environment to the environment variable called node env. And if there is no node env, it's going to assume it's the development environment. And then it imports the configuration from config.json, and it's going to use the env that was selected here. So it's going to either use this or this or this. And then it creates the SQLize instance using that information, and then it exports it. So now the require that is in the model here should be working properly. So in order to test this, we are going to go inside of our controller, and somewhere we are going to create a new account. So it's just going to be a dummy account, okay? So we're going to do const account equals require, and it's going to be models/account. So we're going to do const account equals account.create, and in here we are going to pass the account information. So it's just dummy information. Let's go ahead and return account. And this is going to be commented for now. And before we return the account, we need to save it in our database. So we're going to do account.save. All right. And let's go ahead and curl localhost 3000/auth. And it looks like it's giving us an error. Let's go to our server and see what's happening. Scroll up, and it says that the accounts table is not existing because we have a capital letter on the account. So this can easily be fixed by going to the accounts model and changing the uppercase A by a lowercase a. Okay, so let's try that again, and we'll go ahead and curl again. And there is another error, and it says that save is not a function. And this is because we should await the account creation, and we should await save here. And for await to work, this function should be async. So there we go. Now let's try again. It's clear here, and there we have it. So now let's go to MySQL and see what happened on the accounts table. So select everything from accounts, and there we have it. Our account was correctly created on the database. One thing I want to add real quick here to my migration is the fact that the Lightfunnels ID is unique. Okay, so unique. This way we don't have the same Lightfunnels account added twice to the database by mistake. So in order to apply this change, we are going to undo the migration and create it again. So npx SQLize db migrate undo. Sorry, SQLize CLI. Now this has removed the database, and we're going to create it again by doing migrate. Okay, if we describe accounts, you can see that the Lightfunnels ID is unique. Perfect. So now that we are able to create the accounts, what we are going to do now is create an account as soon as the app is installed on Lightfunnels. So to do that, we're going to go back here, and let's remove the test code that we did here. And we are going to put our code back. So this is just a redirection to the content screen. The account creation is going to happen once we get the access token. So if we have the access token, we're going to create the account. Now, we know that we need the Lightfunnels account ID in order to create the account. But the response from the access token request only contains the access token. So what we need to do is request the account information that we need from Lightfunnels before creating the account. So let's go ahead and do request the account ID from Lightfunnels. All right, so let's create a function for this. Create a function called get account ID from Lightfunnels, and call it here. The function should make a GraphQL call too. Now let's go to Postman and see the account query and how it looks like. So let's go to account/get, and this is what the query looks like. So this is the endpoint. Let's tell the Copilot that this is the endpoint, and the query is, and we're not going to need all of this. All we're going to need is the account ID. So let's do like this and close it like this. All right, so okay, so it created the function up here. So we have the query, which is a string, and it's going to be calling this API right here. And we also need to pass the access token for this to work. So we are going to pass the access token here, and we're going to get it here. And in the header, we need to add the authorization. So add author Actually, I'm going to, yeah, let's try this. Add authorization header. Default. Oh, perfect. All right. So this should add the authorization, the access token to the call. We're going to call this endpoint and we're going to ask for the account ID. Now, once the account ID is returned, we're going to get it here. I'm going to call it LF. It's not confuse it with the account ID from the database. Okay, perfect. So now all we need to do is go ahead and test this, right? So let's go to partners.lightfunnels.com and go to my app and click install app. Okay, let me see what's happening inside of the server. So it has inserted an account. Let me go ahead and check the database. So we're going to select everything from accounts, and we can see that the account was created and the access token is already there. All right, we're going to stop this video here. And in the next video, we're going to talk about the authentication token that we're going to send to the front end. I'll see you there.